Good evening, all, and welcome back to season 2 where Annie D gets real. Let me tell you, this episode this evening, which is off schedule because I have already done my interview yesterday, but it is a very special episode today, let me tell you, and it's as real as it can get. Now, I am not on my usual purple sofa, but I am on a peachy one. But I will be getting back to that quite soon. But as such, I am in my hometown right now in Allahabad. And I think it's quite appropriate because this is where a lot of your constitutional thinkers have emerged. It's where, I guess, the strategy of the freedom fighters, this is where it all happened. Anand Bhavan is just around the corner. So, you know what, I think as today, as you know, we are collecting the facts, and I guess we're deciding the facts and the fiction surrounding the Sushant Singh Rajput case today, preceding the judgment tomorrow. And it's because of this that we have a very special guest today, senior advocate Vikas Pahwa, and it's a pleasure to have him on today. And he will be coming to my purple sofa, and he will be answering all the questions that you may just have. In fact, the nation will have and have had, and they're all, literally stuck to their seats to see what happens tomorrow. Lots of people have tuned in. Yes, I'm absolutely fine, but I do think it's time to get my guest on before we miss him. So let's see. Okay, I think he may be there. So, if the light does go, because I am kind of out a bit, do bear with me. The show will still go on because this episode is too important. Thank you so much, Vikas. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Oh, absolutely fine. Good to see you as well. Thank you so much for coming in today. I know you're very busy. Right.
Yeah, I know. Even in lockdown, the courts have kept us busy because we have all our cases through video conferencing. So it's just like any other day.
So you've been able to slip me in there. That's really good of you, actually. And of course, you know why we're here today. We've got a judgment, in the Supreme Court tomorrow. But before we go on, for our listeners, I'd just like to give a very brief introduction.
Please.
So this is, as I'm going to introduce you again, a senior advocate, Vikas Pahwa, practicing in the Supreme Court, the Indian Supreme Court, and he specializes in criminal law litigation. Okay, so hence why the pedigree is good here. Not only has he worked pro bono in the past, but he's also worked as standing counsel for the CBI, for the Delhi Police and the High Court. And he's also dealt with Dr. Shashi Tharoor as well, his cases as well. So as you can see, this is the reason why he is here today, to shed some light on a very important matter. So, you know what, Vikas, we're going to jump straight to it. We're not going to waste any time. What is the judgment tomorrow that we are waiting for?
Tomorrow, actually, Supreme Court has to decide the transfer petition which is filed by Riya Chakrabarti. It's basically a very narrow petition, but very wide arguments have been made because there are three parties now. There is a state of Maharashtra, there is state of Bihar, CBI, central government, that is Union of India. They all have addressed their arguments. And it has become a bit complicated. Actually, it was not required to be complicated, but it has become complicated now. So the Supreme Court will have to decide tomorrow whether the investigation shall be conducted by Maharashtra or Bihar. In fact, Bihar has already given up because Bihar's FIR has been transferred to CBI. And CBI is central government. So CBI is controlled by the central government. So it's basically between Maharashtra and CBI now. So the Supreme Court will have to decide that issue, and the judgment is coming tomorrow.
Right. So we're on the edge of our seats for that. But, just tell me, what is the confusion regarding the jurisdiction of where the trial should be held for Sushant Singh?
Yes. According to our constitution, the police and public order, they are state subject. So whenever a crime takes place in any state, then that state is responsible because state has a duty to prevent the crime, detect the crime, and then also prosecute the accused. That's a state subject. So in this case, the incident has happened in Maharashtra and Mumbai. So of course, Mumbai police has the jurisdiction to investigate this case. And they are in fact not investigating, but they are inquiring. When an unnatural death takes place, just like this, it's a case of hanging according to the postmortem report. Then according to the Code of Criminal Procedure, there has to be an inquiry under Section 174 by an executive
Mm-hmm.
magistrate. So executive magistrate has to conduct an inquiry and then decide whether any offense is made out or not, because the magistrate has to decide the cause of death. So cause
Right.
of death, and it's been now almost about 2 months. Unfortunately, they have not taken the call.
Yeah.
And the delay has caused anxiety in the family and also the
Yeah.
fans, because everybody wants to know the truth. The job of investigating agency is to find the truth in the matter. That
Yeah.
is why probably the family has gone to Bihar. But
Mm-hmm.
technically speaking, according to the law, it is only Maharashtra police which has jurisdiction to conduct investigation in this case.
Right. Okay. In fact, this was one of the concerns from one of our listeners who've sent in a question, actually. They wanted to know why any other region was conducting an investigation when the incident actually occurred in Maharashtra. But then there are a lot of people wondering why Bihar is not allowed to investigate because the parents live in Patna.
Okay, I can elaborate on that just for your listeners in a normal language, not in a technical legal language.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So the investigations are conducted where the offenses takes place. So if an offense
Ah.
has taken place in a particular state, is that state which has the jurisdiction. Now, in this case, everything has happened in Maharashtra, in Mumbai. If the crime has happened, we don't know whether any crime has happened or not, but if crime has happened, it has happened in Maharashtra. And since the family has filed a case in Bihar,
Mm-hmm.
because the family stays there, and they said that we don't trust Maharashtra police.
Right.
Although, interestingly, till date, no complaint has been filed in Maharashtra. So,
Yeah.
Maharashtra is investigating on its own because there is no complaint of abetment to suicide. So, that is why whether you stay in Bihar or UP or any other state doesn't matter. Only that state will have jurisdiction, the state where offense has taken place.
Right. Okay.
So, in
So
this
even
case,
though the
offense, yes.
Yes, so even if the family still reside, elsewhere, this is what you're saying. Because there was a question from somebody, from a listener, who wanted to know why both regions, Bihar and Maharashtra, couldn't be involved in the investigation.
Yes. So reason is that because since the incident has taken place in Maharashtra, it's
Okay.
only Maharashtra police which has to investigate this case. Not because the complainant or the deceased family stays in Bihar, they choose that it's a convenient place. It doesn't matter. Your
Hmm.
convenience is totally inconsequential. It's the offense which will decide where the matter has to be investigated.
But isn't there a bit of a problem in this scenario, right? You say the incident took place in Maharashtra, but then there is a suspicion that the son of the chief minister of Maharashtra is involved in some way. So how is this going to happen? How is this actually fair? It's a suspicion, so we're not making any judgment here. So where does this leave us then?
In case someone doesn't trust an investigating agency, there can be a court monitored investigation. They can always go to the magistrate of that area and
Hmm.
tell that magistrate to supervise the investigation. They can go to the High Court of Maharashtra, tell
Hmm.
the Bombay High Court to kindly monitor what is happening because they don't trust the investigating agency.
Yeah.
Or in alternative, they can go to the court and say, please transfer this case to CBI. We trust
Mm.
CBI. CBI is an independent premier investigating agency of our country. They could have filed a writ petition in Bombay High Court seeking transfer of the investigation from Maharashtra to CBI. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, Maharashtra till date has not registered the case. That is causing a lot of anxiety to everyone. And that's the
Yeah.
reason for this rigmarole which is happening, unfortunately.
Hmm. Yeah, so then isn't it fair then for the CBI? It'll just alleviate all of the stress and, all the suspicion if the CBI took over totally. Is it not possible?
Now it is possible now, but there are some technical problems. What has happened is Bihar didn't have jurisdiction, but Bihar still registered. So according to me,
Mm.
it's a FIR which is beyond jurisdiction since they
Oh.
didn't have the authority to do it. And that
Hmm.
Bihar FIR has been sent to CBI. And
Yeah.
CBI has registered a case. Now, in my view, in my personal view, CBI actually acted in haste. They should have waited because the case was already pending in Supreme Court. Because the
Mm.
constitutional courts in our country, they have the power to transfer the investigation to CBI. Where is the
Mm.
technical hitch? I'll just tell you. CBI is actually a Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. This special
Mm.
force was constituted in 1946 only for Delhi. and union
Right.
territories. But it can be extended to various states. It can
Right.
only be
Okay.
extended to various states when that state welcomes CBI. That state has
Okay.
to give approval to CBI, please come and investigate in my area. Now, in this case, when Bihar doesn't have jurisdiction, how can Bihar say, come and investigate in Bihar? Because nothing has happened in Bihar. So
Right.
Bihar's
Okay.
approval is no approval in the eyes of law. So in my view, the FIR registered by CBI is beyond jurisdiction. It has to go in any case.
Right.
And then Supreme Court has the
Yeah.
power, the Honorable Supreme Court has the power to now, refer the entire thing to CBI in the interest of justice, saying that, well, there
Mm.
is so much of ruckus which is being created. The fans want it, the family members want it, there are allegations, some,
Mm.
conspiracy theories. As you said, that maybe some political
Yeah.
leaders are also involved. We don't know. This is all speculation. This is all in social media, but we don't know the truth.
Yeah.
So when there is so much of complication, the court can decide tomorrow they have a special power under Article 142. It's only power
Mm.
available with the Honorable Supreme Court. They can refer everything to CBI. But for that, they have
Mm-hmm.
to first set aside or quash the FIR which is already registered by them.
All right. Okay.
So
So it
it
is
has
pretty
become
much
complicated. Unfortunately, it has become complicated. It is not
right. Okay.
required to be, yes.
Yeah. So I guess let's go back to the timeline then. So on the 14th of June, we find out that Sushant Singh Rajput has hanged him. Allegedly, he's hung himself. And the family did not say that there was any. They didn't think there was any foul play at the time. Okay, we've read it that there is nothing to say that they were suspicious of anybody. Then suddenly, what evidence has come to light which has changed their mind?
Can I just tell you just one thing before I come on to that fact? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think the viewers should know what this case is all about. Right?
Yeah.
So it's a case. The most important thing in this case is the cause of death. The
Yeah.
cause of death will decide the future course of investigation. Now, you yourself says that it's a case of hanging.
Yeah.
There is a postmortem report. There is a doctor's view. Doctor has given an opinion that it's a case of the death is by asphyxia due to hanging.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he has also given an opinion. I've just read it, in the newspapers, and also the press conference which was given by the Commissioner of Police, that doctors have said it's a case of suicide. So let's presume now that there is a medical evidence that it's a case of suicide. The only
Okay.
offense in Indian Penal Code with regard to suicide is abetment to suicide.
Okay.
Who has abated this suicide? If it is a case of suicide, so cause of death has to be established at the first instance to decide whether it's a homicide or a suicide. If
Yeah.
the cause of death was uncertain, there would have been two alternative theories. It could have been a murder also. But today there is a medical opinion on record which says it's a case of hanging. So they
Yeah.
have to see who has abated this suicide. Now there are three theories. There is something nepotism, Riya Chakravarti, etc. But
Yeah.
what the police has to find is whether somebody has abated this suicide, because abatement to suicide is an offense under Indian Penal Code punishable for 10 years. So
Right.
all those
Okay.
allegations will have to be tested, whether
Hmm.
they amount to abatement or not.
Right. Okay. So why was Riya Chakravarti called in though?
Yes,
Why
yes.
were other people also called in for I guess a conversation with in relation to this investigation? I think we've had, if I can have a look, I think Shekhar Kapoor, Mahesh Bhatt, Aditya
Yes.
Chopra, they've all been called in. Why were they called in though? What was the reason? Why were the targets pointed that
Yes,
way, to
yes.
call them in particular?
Prima facie, what it looks from the news in the media is when an inquiry is happening, like in this case, Maharashtra is inquiring, the magistrate and the local police is inquiring. When inquiry is happening, the police
Mm-hmm.
has to cover all the angles. So
Right.
police was trying to call those people who were constantly in touch with him just to find out
Mm-hmm.
what exactly the facts are. What were the conversation? If they have the CDRs, call detail records, the magistrate or the police would like to call those people and ask them what
Okay.
happened, what was the conversation, what were you doing, what was your relationship, because there was
Mm.
an angle of nepotism. Now,
Right.
nepotism can't be instigation to commit suicide. Let's
Yes.
presume there is nepotism. Now, nepotism is not an instigation or an abetment to suicide. What is being inquired into is abetment to suicide. Anyway, there is an allegation, so they have to inquire. That is why probably all these people were called. and
Right.
there was an inquiry, and rightly so. My only grievance is, my personal grievance is, they should have expedited this process. This
Right.
process has taken too long, which has caused a lot of trouble to the people, because people don't know what is happening. That is
Mm.
why these speculations happen in media, particularly in mainstream media. You see stories are being
Yeah.
done.
Right. So can I ask you, so what are the
Yes.
allegations that we are looking at then?
For abetment to suicide, we are looking for those acts of the accused persons which has
Hmm.
instigated Sushant to commit suicide. Now,
Okay.
what is the law? The law on abetment to suicide is very clear. The police has to point out the acts of the accused persons which have a direct link with the suicide. Now,
Okay.
let me tell you what's the gravity of those acts.
Hmm.
The law has interpreted abetment to suicide by saying that those acts which were made with an intention that if I do this, he will commit suicide.
Mm.
Simple harassment, simple threat, simple abuse, simple assault, they can't be suicide. Abetment to suicide.
Yeah.
So see, the gravity of those acts should be so high. If you are examining nepotism, then the act of nepotism is so high that the person who was exercising nepotism was having a conspiracy or thought in his mind that if I do this, he will commit suicide.
The
So there should be a
intention.
live link, intention. So live link should be there with the act and the suicide. That's what the police has to examine.
And that's what
That's
they
what
have to
I hope
prove.
they are doing the same. And they have to prove ultimately. That
But
is
is
why
it
till
that,
date Maharashtra has not filed the FIR, I suppose.
right? So it's not just that, but there's also, I think, cases where the father of Sushant Singh Rajput said there was a money transfer from
Yes.
Sushant's account where about 15 crores have kind of moved. Is it 15 crores? Am I correct?
I think I read yesterday the ED has made a statement because now
Yeah,
Enforcement Directorate
correct.
has also assumed jurisdiction. They have given a statement that none of the money has gone to Riya Chakrabarti. There
Right.
was
So
an
they have the
allegation,
evidence.
yes. There was an allegation which is made by the father of Sushant in the FIR.
Yeah.
That's why they have made the allegation of cheating, that she has cheated him.
Hmm.
But I think yesterday I read it in the papers that they have clarified that the amounts have not gone to her account. So that
Right.
is
Okay.
also being investigated at the moment.
Right. So we don't have actually foolproof evidence to say that Riya Chakravarti is not involved in the transfer because we don't even know if, because I mean, obviously they're in a relationship, Riya and Shashank. So is it a
Okay.
possibility that the transfer was under his agreement?
Of
So
course,
there's
very
nothing
much
wrong with
possible.
that.
In case there is any, in case the look,
Right.
when two people now Supreme Court says live-in relationship is like a relationship of husband and wife.
Yes, that's
There
right.
is a judgment. That is why even the live-in partners have some legal rights which are coming from the relationship now. Now,
Mm.
how do you prove that all those transactions, if there are transactions, because yesterday the ED official said there are transactions of very minor value, which are
Mm.
like very, the transaction are very small, not like 15 crores. But even if we presume, let us presume for the moment that transactions have happened. People buy properties in the name of various people. They can buy property in the name of their
That's
wife,
right.
live-in partner. So how do you go behind those transactions? How
Yeah.
do you prove that, yes, it was deliberately done? Why he never made a complaint? Why he
Yes.
never filed any? There is no suicide note in this case. There is no email in this case where he has made any complaint. There is no telephone call. He has never told his friend that he is being cheated by anyone. So look, I'm an outsider at the moment. I'm only an
Mm.
expert on criminal law. I don't know these facts. So I'm only giving you my view. I don't want to
Right.
give any judgment on these facts. It's the job of the police to find the unvarnished truth, to find what exactly has happened. But I'm
Yeah,
just
but
giving you my opinion on these facts.
But unfortunately, the truth of the matter is that the people outside, the audience, the people that follow social media are basically judge, jury themselves. I mean, we have Kangana Ranaut, making her statements. We have Shekhar Suman, saying what he's saying. So why is there a thought that it could be a murder, not a suicide?
Okay,
What
so
kind of evidence do we have to suggest that?
let us examine that. You have a postmortem report which gives
Hmm.
the cause of death to be hanging. Look,
Hmm.
if there is a murder, then somebody will strangulate him, right?
Hmm.
So I'm giving you a very, very typical classic example. In a case of hanging, the ligature mark is 3/4,
Right.
right? And the hanging is done, if it is done by an individual, by himself alone, so there are no injuries on the body when he's committing suicide. And there is a 3/4 ligature mark, which can be seen by the doctor. But in case it's a case of strangulation, murder, then somebody will strangle it. There's a 180-degree ligature mark on
Mm.
the neck. And doctors can make out like this.
Mm.
Doctors are, look, our forensic science is so upgraded and modern now that they can barely, merely by having a look at the dead body, they can tell you what is the cause of death. So in this
Right.
case, the condition of body, they have examined it. There is a postmortem report. Doctor says it's a case, and there's an opinion which has come that it's a case of suicide by hanging. So where's the question of murder?
But
Murder is
because
defined in IPC.
isn't this the whole problem? Isn't this the whole problem that we cannot, well, it's not that we cannot, people are not trusting, the family do not trust the
Yes.
Maharashtra police to give appropriate information. So things have been rigged. I mean, there are phone calls that have come out. We don't know what weight it holds, but there have been phone calls between Sushant Singh and Sandeep Singh, and I think it's Ganesh Hivakar. I've got his name right here, to
Yes, yes.
suggest that Sushant knew what had happened to his marriage, knew what happened to Jia, and that he was next. How much
Yes.
weight does this hold in court? All these conversations that have been recorded. Just tell me this.
Look, if the telephone conversation is recorded, in the sense there's an interception. If you and I are talking and somebody takes the permission from Ministry of Home and they're recording my conversation, and there is a voice sample which they have taken, then that conversation becomes relevant. Okay? When
Right,
there is no interception of the telephonic call, then the only evidence they have are the CDRs, that is call detail records. Now,
right.
call detail records will only show that two people have spoken. Now, what they have
Mm-hmm.
spoken, nobody knows. Rest is on hearsay evidence. So, if
Right,
there are telephonic conversation, yes, they are relevant. They are relevant to corroborate a theory. In case there are only CDRs, then you can speculate. What
mm,
what must have been the conversation? What were they talking? We don't know. So, according to me, this is no evidence.
mm.
But yes, of
But
course, it has to be investigated. If there are statements which come, there are oral statements, there are friends who come up and say, yes, he told me
mm.
about
but
this. They
I
can,
But I ask you again, Vikas, how
yeah,
much can we trust the Maharashtra government? How much can we trust the Maharashtrian police
yes.
because of the suspicion of involvement at the top? And in fact, one of our listeners has written in that there is no time of death either that has been recorded.
Look, of course, the CBI is involved at a later stage in many cases, the cases where you don't trust the investigating agency. When the High Court and Supreme Court, under constitutional power, is trying to transfer the investigation from the local police to CBI, they have to hold the loopholes in the investigation by a particular
Mm,
investigating agency,
mm-hmm.
form an opinion, and then say that we are transferring it to CBI. So that prayer should have come. Unfortunately, that prayer has not formally come before the court. But yes, if you
Right.
don't trust an investigating agency, there's every chance that investigation may go to CBI, and why not? It can go. But there's a legal way of doing it. The
Right.
way it has been managed, according to me, is to circumvent the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act. Section 6 is violated. There is a law is very, very clear on that.
Mm,
Without the permission from state of Maharashtra, you can't investigate in that state till they
right.
welcome you. That is the way the law has been framed. So there is a way of doing it, but unfortunately that method has not been followed. So it will be followed now. Let us see what the Honorable Supreme Court says tomorrow.
Right, so this is what we are waiting for. Now, I was going to say, we've had, as I said, a lot of social media activity about this. For some reason, this has really, just hit the screens. Now, we've had Arnab Goswami, who claims he
Yes.
has evidence of a lot of things. Now, how much influence do you think that social media will have on this case?
Well, according to my understanding, any media person who has evidence has got an option to go and give it to the police, whichever police is investigating. they can always give the evidence to the police. Police has every right to consider it. But if you have evidence, you are not giving it to the police, it's of no use to anyone. But yes, social media and of course now mainstream media also tries to, they're doing stories about cases which are under investigation. My personal view is totally different. I feel there should be a law that cases which are under investigation, where police is investigating, where evidence is being analyzed and collected, media should be stopped from doing that story because you're analyzing the evidence, which is not your job. Just imagine people, those who don't know the ABC of law of evidence. I'm sorry to say that. They don't know ABC of the law of evidence, are doing stories for hours. I'm not giving any name because everybody's doing it. It's very easy to do it. So you don't know whether a particular evidence is admissible in the court or not. We are talking about it for hours. It may be of zero relevance to the court. Imagine the court which has to analyze the evidence, has to look at the evidence right in the end, when so much of media hype is already created. And there are empty number of cases which have been spoiled purely because of that. God knows whether we will be able to know the truth in this matter. Because of all this, what is happening.
So in fact, we had somebody come up, I think it was Babs Mera. Now, she was asking whether you feel that the family were advised appropriately. Because you've actually said that they should have done this, we should have done this, we should have done this, and we didn't do it properly. So is it possible that the family has not been advised properly?
I don't think it's appropriate for me to, comment on that, because every lawyer who takes a call is a call which he has taken according to his own wisdom. They have their own strategies. It's very easy for me to make any comment on somebody else's judgment. I don't want to do that. So every lawyer has his own perspective in law. And of course, whoever is advised, my friend has advised, my very dear friend is advising them. Of course, he has taken the right call. Whatever he feels appropriate, he has done it.
Now in India, unlike the West, we have a jury system. Now, over here in India, we have a judge that sits to make a decision. Now, I would like to ask you, considering all the situation that we're in, the possibility that one judge could be in control of the Maharashtra government in some way. They could be good friends. We don't know. We have social media as well impacting on the case. How fair is a single judge on this case? Do you not think we would benefit in this particular scenario to have a representation? Either we're especially in a patriarchal society that we're in, either having a woman or someone from the LGBT community as well. So at least more than one judge to give a balanced decision in this case.
I think I must tell you how our judicial system works. Our judicial system works according to the statutes, the law which we have. And in our case, we have 4 layers of court: the court of a magistrate, sessions, high court, and Supreme Court. So according to the gravity of the offense, the trial is conducted. If the trial is of minor offense, it is conducted by the lowest level magistrate, then the sessions court. Of course, you are right. There's only one judge who decides in the trial. Unlike, I can just share it with you, I was in Greece doing a trial. Last year, we concluded it. And Greece has a system where the felony trials, the trials where offenses more than 5 years, they are not very grave or serious or heinous, the trial is conducted by 3 judges. And I was surprised, almost 50% of the judges in Greece were women. So every trial is conducted by 3 judges. There's always a majority 2:1 which works. And unlike in India, where even the most heinous offense, say of a terrorist activity, the trial is conducted by 1 judge. And then in case he gives a verdict, say of a death sentence, then it goes to a higher court. Then it has to be referred to a high court for approval. But in our country, the most heinous offenses are also tried before 1 judge, which according to me is a system which requires some change. If you have 3, as you rightly said, there's a representation. But that is what you're comparing it with. A jury trial is completely different. Jury trial is a history in our country now. Jury trial started in 1826 and it was formally abolished in 1973. But the last trial we all know was Nanavati trial in 1959.
Are we kind of backwards in England then? Is that what we're saying?
No, but in India, because at that point of time, the jury trial was misused because we were not independent. So the trials which were happening were trial to where they know there was a premeditated conviction which they wanted. So the composition of the jury was not appropriate. If you see in US, the most important is the composition from where you are getting those jury members. Jury members are from various parts of the society. So at that point of time, so I think this Nanavati verdict in 1959, which came and created a havoc, they thought that it's a complete failure. Then the law came to abolish it. A lot of member of parliament went to the parliament, said, please remove this. And finally, in 1973, when the new code came, then this jury trial was completely wiped out from our system. So as of now, of course, we don't have jury trial.
Okay, so we still await it in England. Right, which is ironic considering the Brits almost gave the constitution to India. We're way back now. So what are the facts then? So let's round it all up. What are the facts and what is fiction with regards to the death of Sushant Singh Rajput?
If you see, facts means evidence. You're talking about evidence, am I sure?
Yes.
So what are the established facts? Established fact is that yes, he has died. So when he is died, there must be a Panchnama, which is conducted by the cops. So there must be a Panchnama report. There's a report of what exactly has happened. There's a report of the place of occurrence where the offense has taken place. There is a postmortem report, which is conducted by an independent doctor. There should be an inquest report by an executive magistrate. There should be CCTV recordings of the building. CCTV recordings of the building they must have collected. They have the people, those who were in the house, people in the building. No, these are all eyewitnesses who must have seen what has happened at that particular point of time. Then they have bank records, right? They have bank records to analyze. These are all evidences which are hard evidences available. But all that has to be analyzed in the right perspective.
Right. So we have information, but as yet we haven't analyzed it to make a kind of to give a conclusion. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And somebody independent should do it.
Right. So the question now is, you have evidence of something, but unless you have something in mind in the first place to think it could be a murder, it could be foul play. How would you know what to investigate? How to analyze a piece of evidence?
Yes. Look, when the investigation normally starts, it starts on a complaint.
Right.
You must have heard FIR is a first information report.
So anyone can make a complaint.
Anyone can make a complaint. Yes, anybody can make a complaint. In case you should have a locus to file a complaint. It's not that anybody who's unknown can come up to the court and say, I would like to do this. I think in this case also in the beginning, I remember there are two lawyers who filed a complaint in Bihar. They are the one who started this.
Right.
The lawyers who filed two complaints in Bihar are the one who gave the idea of filing a complaint in Bihar, knowing they have no locus.
So before the father actually
before father, absolutely. Before father, in fact, I wrote an article at that point of time because there is a concept of strangers in our country. It has happened so many times, and it's a settled proposition of law. Strangers to the case have no right to come to the court and start agitating things. In criminal law, I'm talking about, not in civil.
Right.
There are people who can file public interest litigation. But in criminal law, it's only a victim, only an informant, only a complainant who's related with that case can come and file something in the court. So in this case, the two lawyers did it in the beginning. And then the father filed a complaint. Father has every right. Family members have full right to file a complaint, but they have to file a complaint in the right jurisdiction.
Right. Okay.
So FIR starts the investigation. Suppose an allegation is made with regard to abetment to suicide. Now in Bihar, there's an allegation of abetment to suicide. So that angle has to be investigated by the police. As I told you in the beginning, abetment to suicide is instigation. It is conspiracy. So it is somebody who wanted that he should commit suicide. That angle has to be investigated, and for that, the police has to conduct thorough, very comprehensive investigation.
Right. So what we're saying is that the family could have been influenced to think in that direction. But the sister has come out to say, to confirm,
Yes.
well, in her words, and she is a sister, she will obviously know Sushant Singh very well, and has said that he was not depressed. There is no
Yes.
bipolar condition that he was suffering from, and it is a sure case of foul play. So how much weight does that hold then? And
I,
why did
I
she not say this at the beginning?
I think I saw an interview in the beginning, almost about 25, 30 days of the incident. There was a psychiatrist, some lady who came and gave a statement saying that he used to come to me and I was prescribing medication. So it's a job of the police to conduct an investigation on that. And there is one more evidence, I think, which is connected with this, is the Google search of Sushant, which probably was also told by someone. I think the commissioner of police gave in his press conference that we have seen the Google search. He was searching about something which shows that probably he
Yeah,
was not in a proper frame of mind. So these are all scattered investigation, the evidence, which of course has to be collated and
right.
analyzed by an independent agency. Whoever does it, I don't know, it doesn't matter to us, but then we want there should be a fair investigation in this case. If Maharashtra police can do it, why not? They can
But
form
how?
a SIT.
But because from what we can hear from the family, how fair is it when there's no timing of death? They did, as far as she's concerned, there were marks on the body, bruises on the body that the police did not mention. So how can it be fair if the evidence from forensics is not accurate and it wasn't accurately processed? How
I
fair
don't
is this
know
case
this
going to
this.
be?
I just want to ask you one thing, Annie. Is the postmortem report in public domain? Is it available? Have you
Postmortem.
read it? We have not.
No, I have. I don't have it. It
I
is
don't
all
think anybody has
speculation.
it. It is all speculation.
Yeah.
This investigation of a police is confidential investigation. And you'll be surprised. I'm talking about the legal principles. Sometimes even accused is not entitled to see those evidence
Right. Okay.
because the court says sorry. Like when we appear for an accused, and we ask the court that the police is not showing us this, and police is not sharing this information, but the court says sorry, it can't be shared at this stage. When everything is concluded, yes, they will give it to you, but not now. So this is a stage where everything is confidential, everything is in the file, it is not shown to anybody. But there are some people who claim, I don't know if there were injuries, of course, it will be indicated in the postmortem report. If it is not indicated, then it is speculation. So I think this is a very dangerous gray area where people are making statements which may be true, may not be true, but it has to be tested by an investigating agency.
Well, I'm going to make it a bit grayer, and I'm hoping you've
Okay.
consulted your lawyer before you make any statements. What do you think? Where are the weaknesses in the case for a murder? And how much do you think it's a suicide? What do you think? What is your view on this?
As I told you in the beginning, the first step is to see the medical evidence. Look, if it is a case of murder and there is somebody who has seen committing a murder, there's an eyewitness account. And then we go to the injuries. Out here, the first step, if I'm an investigating officer, my first step is to collect the medical evidence because medical evidence will give us the cause of death. Now,
Right.
some people are saying that there were some injuries on the body. If there were injuries, yes, it has to be examined. That's an indication that it's a foul play. Suppose there are in a case of strangulation, a typical case of strangulation, there are marks on the neck.
Yeah.
There are marks because normally somebody will hold and then do a
Yeah.
strangulation. Then there are some bruises in the body. All that has to be examined. So my first document is to analyze the medical evidence. Medical
So,
evidence says it's a case of suicide by hanging. Then you have to start abetment to suicide. You have no choice.
okay. So
So you
I'm
have
not
to
going to
choose.
get. I'm not going to get an opinion. So the movies when they have the blindfold over the murti, that's exactly
Yes,
where we are right now.
yes, yes, yes,
It's
yes,
only
yes.
the evidence.
That's a later
Okay.
stage. That's a later stage when the evidence comes to the court. The statute of justice says, I will only, weigh the evidence. What is the evidence? Whether it's admissible or not. If it is admissible, we'll take it. If it is not admissible, we'll throw it out. But
Okay.
at this stage, nobody knows whether it's admissible or not. It's a
Okay.
too preliminary stage.
Right. So, okay. So right now we have the forensic report about I guess, the way of death, the mode of death.
Yes, yes,
We have phone calls. Oh no, we have
yes.
details of phone calls.
Yes, serious.
Um, in the media, I'm not sure how much this will be admissible about conversations between Sushant Singh and his friends. The fact that he related, obviously, his death, his potential death, to somebody else's, so that's a possibility. I'm not sure if that's going to come in, so we have that as well.
Yes,
So, and we also have transfer of financial
that's
amounts
right.
from one account to another. What
Yes.
so? What is the speculation? The speculation, in fact, are the phone calls. The speculation is anything that is outside of the forensic report. Is that what we're
Yes.
talking about? And so, what is confirmed so far, though? What is an absolute truth in this
Speculation,
case?
speculation is something which cannot be substantiated by way of evidence. I make a statement, I have to substantiate it with the evidence. Suppose
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying it's a case of murder, I have to substantiate it that it's a
Yeah,
murder. I have to show medical evidence, I have to show eyewitness account, I have to show motive.
yeah.
In a case of circumstantial evidence where nobody has seen the crime, the most important is if you are saying X has done it, then you have to show the motive to do it. In
Right.
circumstantial evidence, motive become very important. Out here, you have to first identify first is cause of death, then
Mm-hmm.
whether it's suicide or homicide. If it is suicide, X has committed the abatement. If it is homicide, then these are the people who are responsible for death. It's very simple. So start with medical, then decide homicide or suicide. If it's suicide, then this is a track which you have
Well,
to take.
I think the problem that everybody has, Vikas, is that we are aware that we need evidence to analyze. But what they're concerned about is that the evidence hasn't been put forward as it should, because the Maharashtra police are obviously controlled by the government, where there's
Yes.
a bit of a suspicious involvement in the death of Sushant Singh. Now, this is the problem that we have. I think this is what
And
it is.
in case there is,
There have been Twitter messages where actors have actually said they've hinted, like Anupam Kher. In fact, I was reading the other day where I have been looking, and I know what's happening, but I'm not going to say much on it. So, what does that actually mean?
I think they have a look. The family has an option. There's a legal option available to them to ask for CBI investigation. Although CBI now, I don't think the court can decide that issue because CBI has already registered, and that
Yeah.
FIR is being tested. If just imagine a situation where they had not registered, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and the court had an option of transferring the investigation to CBI, it would have been very, very, very easy and smooth for the court to decide because then they're
Mm.
not testing something which is already registered. So, but since they have already registered, it has the legality of that document has to be tested. So,
Okay.
but yes, of course, when you don't trust a local police, you have to go to a specialized investigating agency. And the
Mm.
only agency we look for nowadays is CBI in case of these offenses. Otherwise, there's a national investigating agency, which is of course for some other category of offenses. But we look upon CBI when there
Mm.
are complications and when you don't trust an investigating agency, they have a right to ask for it. And I'm sure they have asked for it, they have got it also. But now it
Mm.
has to be tested in the court of law.
Okay, so what is the kind of judgment that you are assuming that you're gonna hear tomorrow? What are we looking forward to tomorrow then?
Very, very difficult. It's very easy for me, but I've told you my view. I don't know what the Honorable Court is going to do because the Honorable Court has to test that FIR. According to me,
What
that
should
FIR
they
is a
do?
nullity.
What do you think
I
they
think,
should do?
look, after talking to you, I can understand even you are anxious to know, and you have that belief that there will not be an independent, fair investigation in Maharashtra. That's an impression which you have got, maybe because of the social media.
Well, I'm only
So
influenced by social media, of course.
fine. So just so just like you, I think millions of people, because Sushant had such massive fan following and his family members, of course, they also must be anxious to know the truth. They all believe that it's a case of CBI investigation. Whether it is justifiable or not, it's a different matter.
Right.
But I think, okay, I can just give you my vague guess as to what should
Okay.
happen tomorrow. It may be correct, may not be
This
correct.
is a scoop.
My understanding is that, only my understanding, that Bihar FIR is any case non-existent now because it
Right.
is
Okay.
transferred to CBI.
Yeah.
According to me, it was a zero FIR because it was
Okay.
beyond jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And then CBI has registered something on the basis of FIR which is beyond jurisdiction. So CBI FIR has to go. It should be quashed. Otherwise, it will be a wrong precedent. And then the court, in the end, while analyzing the anxiety and the lack of confidence, and also if they want to make any comment on the steps taken by Maharashtra Police on its own, the Supreme Court can refer the matter to CBI under Article 142.
Okay.
So set aside CBI listing, the FIR, and independently on your own, you can transfer it. This is my way of, otherwise we have to wait because, Supreme Court is the apex court of the country and they, of course, are much more experienced. They have their own wisdom to decide. According to me, this would be a good, via media to adopt.
Right. No, the only reason I have to say, even I'm perplexed about the case and the evidence,
Yes.
because as I think it's a community thing, as Indians, we are also very emotional. So when we read something in the newspaper, when we read something on social media, we have a tendency to make a judgment first of all, and it's very
Yes.
difficult then to shift that judgment. Now,
Absolutely.
for me, for example, I mean, I guess what kind of made me a bit confused was that the lawyer for Riya Chakravarti was the same lawyer that was used for Salman Khan in his case, and also for Sanjay Dutt in his case. So it was a bit of a coincidence for me.
No.
So that was the only thing
Satish,
that caused
I don't
confusion.
agree. Look, I tell you, there are very few good criminal lawyers in our country. And Satish Manashinde is one of them. So when you have a problem, you go to a good lawyer. It's not that it's a coincidence. He's one of the finest lawyers we have in Bombay, and there are many others. It's not that. But yes, of course, there's a dearth of good criminal lawyers. So in most of the cases, you will find, always those 10, 15, 20 lawyers are engaged, whether it's Bombay or
okay.
Delhi. So there is no coincidence. It is just
And you
that
cleared that up for me.
he's popular. He's popular in that area, and of course, he's a brilliant lawyer. So that's why he has been engaged. I don't see any connection in cases.
Okay,
You have lawyers who are always appearing in multiple high profile cases, but the cases don't get connected. The lawyers have to do their job. Yeah.
So I had a question for one of the listeners as to why Riya Chakravarti though is insisting on keeping the case in Maharashtra. What is the problem? What does it matter to her if there is nothing wrong?
No, she was only registering. Yes, she was registering Bihar case, not CBI case. When she filed the petition in the Supreme Court at that point of time, the CBI investigation was not even in existence.
Right.
It came after her petition. So she never trusted Bihar because Bihar, when if a Bihar government doesn't have jurisdiction, they register. Then obviously an accused is nominated, accused will feel that she will not get justice in that state. So she was advised. Of course, she was advised, and her counsel argued the matter in the court. So she had a legal option. She availed it. So I don't see anything disturbing in that.
Right. Okay.
When you have once you are made an accused in the FIR, you have to take all legal options which are available to you, and this was one of them. Justifiable option, which she has exercised. I don't see there's anything wrong in that.
So, but I don't understand. So, quite honestly, obviously, you're an expert in the law, and I'm assuming that the Bihar DCP, I think is Gupteshwar, is also, he's been in the force, I think, for about 35 years, unless I misheard the Hindi numbers. But I gathered it was for a long time. Now, what case was he trying to put forward as to why he had the right to investigate?
I'm sorry, I don't know this. What are you saying? DCP Bihar.
So DCP Gupteshwar. So he had a reason as to why he thought he could contribute to the trial. What was his basis? What was the basis of his argument? Why did he think he had a right?
No, you are saying that DCP Bihar registered the case knowing that they have the jurisdiction.
Well, so they thought they had the power to get information from Right. Okay. And there are obstacles that were put forward by the Mumbai police. So what
Okay.
was
Okay, you are talking about the officer who came to Maharashtra to conduct investigation.
that's right. So why?
Okay,
What was he
okay,
working on? What right did he
okay,
have
okay.
then?
Since there was a FIR in Bihar, and that FIR was registered properly and was being investigated, when FIR is registered, they have to appoint an investigating officer. So he
Hmm.
was a senior of the investigating officer. So he came with the team. He came to Maharashtra to collect the
All
evidence.
right.
So that is what I was telling you. When
Yeah.
everything has happened in Maharashtra, why do we require an officer from Bihar to come to Maharashtra to collect evidence when there is a local police available there? But since the FIR was already registered, he has every right to
Mm.
come. He can go to anywhere in the country because he is investigating a case. But then
Yeah.
for collecting evidence, he has to come to Maharashtra. So
Right.
that's why, in his because he had the power to investigate, he
Yeah.
came to Maharashtra and he was trying to investigate the same
Mm.
allegation which has been made in the FIR.
Mm. Okay. Because he did claim that there were lots of obstacles. Nobody was there to. I guess. I see now. When a police officer is saying this, I'm not going to see this as speculation. I'm going to see it as hard evidence that the
Yes,
Mumbai police were putting obstacles in his way. So
yes, yes.
I'm going to see that as solid evidence. So that's not speculation, Vikas, at all.
I
Okay.
tell
So
you,
this,
I think that was because it's a fight between two states. So
yeah.
Maharashtra, because Maharashtra police says that because I think somebody was quarantined in Maharashtra when this officer came from Bihar because of COVID-19. Maharashtra police said, we have not done it, it's the administration which has done it. So administration has
Okay.
to follow the rules. But of course, since there's a tussle going on between two
Yes.
states, obviously Maharashtra police will not cooperate with Bihar police because they're challenging the FIR.
Right. Okay, well, you know what? I have to say, Vikas, I did put you on the spot, the hot spot there. And it wasn't easy. But you know what? I rely on you to have all the answers that the nation, to
Yes,
the
yes,
questions that the nation has. And I think I put it in a nutshell, from
yes,
whatever I know. And a lot has been said. It's almost like, I think the people could decide today, the way that they're going on. So,
yes.
anything that you would like to say? What are the questions that you've got from your side? Anything else? I have we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, I can only say that, of course, we all want there should be a proper investigation. But unfortunately, what is happening is that we are flooded with so many information, so much of
Yeah.
information which is uncorroborated. Today, in the garb of freedom of speech, we can say whatever we want. We
Yes.
can abuse anybody we want. There is no law. People feel that on this, social media, they can allege anything
Yeah.
by saying that it is alleged. I'm only alleging. I'm not saying you have done it. But then you are defaming that person. So there's so much
That's
of
right.
cyber defamation which is happening. So in a complicated case like this, we have to allow an investigating agency to function. Once
Right.
the investigating agency functions, they give a report
Yeah.
in the court. So the media should go and report what is happening in the court, right? Whatever is, when we go and argue in the court, every day they report, which is very fine, which is very nice. Everyone in the
Yeah.
country should know what is happening in the
Yeah.
court. But when we are at a very nascent stage of investigation where the evidence is to be collected, there this kind of media trial ultimately impacts the outcome of the case. So
Right.
it's the justice which fails.
Right. So
The,
the
the right
advice
people
is
are not, yeah,
So the advice is to hold off, basically, from being taken in by social
yes,
media. Let people do their job, and
yes,
just let it happen, because obviously it's caused a lot of furor,
hmm,
across the nation. Well, Vikas,
yes,
thank you so much, coming on, this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, lots of
yes,
people have been texting in, and I don't
hmm,
think I've been able to even get all their questions over. But
yes,
I think the overall premise is that a lot of people are they're distrusting the system. And
yes,
then
yes.
they even of the thought that possibly that the CBI could also be in the hands of the Maharashtra government. Who knows who's being influenced by who? So
But
we await.
CBI is a central agency. CBI is not
Yes,
under the state of
I
Maharashtra.
think we've watched too
CBI
many
is with the Union
movies
of India.
because we've watched too many movies. I think Bollywood shoots itself in the foot here. No
Yes.
pun intended. But we do await the judgment tomorrow with bated breath. So let's see what happens. A lot of evidence, but for what? We have to decide which route we're going to take. I think the main thing is analysis, and we need to let the state do what it does best, and we need to hold off from being influenced by social media. Because I think everybody also, and this is a personal thing, that everyone has their own agenda. This is, I think, this is what I'm seeing as well. But you know what? I'm not sure. From what I've heard, hearsay, that this, problems with Bollywood and the media industry, or anywhere for that matter, it's been happening for years. And somehow, for some reason, the Sushant Singh Rajput case has just been, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm just wondering why it caused so much, why it had so much of an impact, that it's just opened up, it's blown everything into smithereens here. So let's see what happens.
Can I ask one question to you because of your statement which you have just made?
Yeah.
Pre-Sushant suicide and even post, there are many suicides which have happened in the country, even in Bollywood. Why they are not being tested in the media? Why they are not being taken to that level? People are not bothered to even talk about it. Why this case?
I think what it is, I think everybody was scared. I think also when people react and do something, I think it happens after a point. Once your threshold goes, I think then you just kick back. And I think Sushant Singh was that last straw. I think that was it for everybody, because he was a lovable character.
No doubt about it. He was actually he had a successful story. It's a success story. And of course, he has shaken the system, which I really like is, of course, whatever is happening, we may say that it's not appropriate, but at the end of the day, it may be good for the system. Absolutely. There are many people who have started introspecting even in Bollywood that what they were doing is correct or not. So it's only because of this that the entire system has been shaken and people have started talking about it. We have so many Bollywood personalities who have come forward and given statements. They were silent earlier. They didn't have the courage to speak. Now they have the courage to speak, which is, I think that's the silver lining of this case.
Absolutely. I hope that it doesn't go in vain. I hope something comes out of it. We do await the judgment tomorrow, and you never know, Vikas, we could be speaking again about this. And of course, if you do want to listen to this interview again, if you didn't get to see all of it, then please come onto my website, annied.in, or come onto my YouTube channel, In Conversation with Annie D. Of course, it's time to say goodbye. And once again, to thank Vikas Pahwa here. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
An absolute pleasure. So we shall await to see what happens. And let's see.
I'll send you the copy of judgment tomorrow.
Yes, thank you. I will await for that too. Okay, bye-bye, Vikas.
Bye-bye. Bye. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.